Hello, my name is Jason, and today we'll be creating these two oracle paintings in this video. So I've been kind of starting these projects a little bit like I've normally been starting these past few oracle cards that I've done. Starting with an idea, moving into the sketch, and then finishing off by doing the actual watercolor effects and then the gouache layers on top of that. And I actually had a really good time doing that whole process. And they ended up sort of turning out the way I wanted to have them, but they also weren't exactly the results I was really looking for. And I think that kind of came down to, some choices with the colors and the contrast that made it a little bit different than what I was expecting and different than what was in my head initially, which was made it kind of challenging when I was actually working on these pieces. I think personally with a lot of the artwork that I've done lately, and I've done quite a few pieces over the course of this past year that I have enjoyed, but some that I've been kind of struggling with and having a hard time with. And I feel like I've gotten to a point where some of my pieces I'm just really dissatisfied with. And I know that for a lot of artists, this is kind of a natural thing, a natural process that happens when you're creating artwork. Something that is totally common for artists to really be just really dissatisfied with their work as they're creating and growing and learning. And I think that's a totally fine point to be in your journey. But when you're in that part of the process, it feels really daunting to want to continue to work, continue to create, and it can be a really big struggle for a lot of artists, myself included. And I think right now I'm at kind of a pivotal stage where I really need to start doing something different in order to get my artwork in the place where I want it to be. Now, especially with this big project of doing the oracle cards, I really want to make sure that I can do these to the best of my ability and have it be kind of a snapshot of my art in its current moment. But also I do want to be able to market it. I do want to be able to sell it. I do these art fairs often in the summer, and I want to be able to display them and have them be a part of the collection of my pieces that I display and sell at my art fairs. So it makes it really hard to have these pieces of art be something that I'm really dissatisfied with, because I know they're supposed to be part of something bigger. And at this point in the journey, I'm not necessarily sure what I need to be doing to elevate my work to get to a point where I'm happy with how they look and how I want them to be. Doing so much progress and getting so far with your journey, but then you feel like you hit almost a ceiling with your progress, where you can see that ceiling and start to realize like it's going to be really hard to break through that ceiling, because you see like every time you try, you're hitting that limit, and you're not going much further than that each time you try. And it feels so daunting to get past that initial phase of just trying and getting past that ceiling that you can very visibly see. And I think for me at this point, I can almost see that ceiling, and I'm not really sure what to do to really get past that, other than just like hunkering down and trying harder and doing more, which at this point becomes really challenging because of all the other things that I'm doing constantly on a daily basis with other projects, artworks, doing this YouTube now, doing my tutoring business on the side. It becomes really challenging to handle all of these things all at once, and to be able to devote dedicated time to improving and practicing and learning even though I know that that is pivotal to being able to break through that ceiling, it becomes really hard to figure out how to actually put all of the pieces together to find time to really spend on these larger pieces, on these more dedicated, finished compositions. And yeah, I think I'm really just struggling in that regard, and I don't really know what the best option is other than just to continue to try. And I think right now it's about really just doing what I can to make those differences and to make the changes that I want to make, even if they're only on a small scale. Just like with everything else, like, it's about practice. It's about, learning over time. There's never going to be a point in time where I'm going to be improving all at once in one big leap. It's going to be about making small improvements over time, little by little, and that's perfectly okay. But it's something that makes it's really hard to be stuck in a point where I'm seeing that ceiling and really wanting to grow and improve, but not really being able to jump really past that. Like, I can't, there's not like one specific thing that I can do to just leap past that initial hurdle to get into a point where I can really start to grow and exceed. Like, there's no indication of an award you get or an achievement from like a video game that tells you like, wow, you've achieved this landmark, this ranking in art that shows you that you can, get past these hurdles at this point. And I think right now too, like, I can find things about these particular artworks that I do enjoy. Like, I do like the colors, I do like the ideas and the concepts. And that might be a practice that I need to work on a little bit more, is looking at my artwork in the lens of things that I enjoy. Because I think so many artists, including myself, get hung up in seeing the details that are wrong or mistakes. Sorry, my camera ran out of batteries. Anyway, artists get so hung up in seeing the mistakes that they have in their artwork. It's so easy to see what's wrong with a piece because we're all so trained to see those mistakes and not really trained to celebrate the things that we do right oftentimes. And for myself, that has been something that I've been working on a lot lately, working on the ability to be able to see the things that I'm doing well and to be able to consciously kind of, if I'm looking too deep into the mistakes, into the problems, I can start to kind of step back and be like, okay, well, what are the things that I do enjoy? What are the things that I do like? And oftentimes I know for artists, like, a lot of the foundation of why we create is almost to get that validation from other people. I know from a young age you show family your artwork and they give you praise for how it looks and they hang it on the fridge and whatnot. And you get that good feeling from creating and showing other people. And oftentimes that is a great thing to do and a great thing to be able to have, to be able to show people and get that validation from other people. But it's not necessarily the most important or best for people. It's really seeking that internal validation that's going to be the most powerful, the most important for you as an artist, to be able to validate yourself while you're creating and tell yourself that you're worthy of creating and tell yourself that this is good artwork or this is artwork that you like. But that's really hard to step away from needing that external validation. And I think both have their time and place. Both are very important for any artist to get that external validation, get that internal validation. But you can't solely rely on external validation for your artwork. That's where things really get kind of messy and make it really hard for you as an artist to be able to see past those. There's like a little bird messing around over here. I'm getting distracted. You're finding ways to internally validate yourself is incredibly challenging, especially if you've never grown up with that as a muscle that you have. Because oftentimes that's something that you kind of have to learn over time and be able to grow that instinct or that natural ability to validate yourself. Because that's never really something that's taught. People don't really teach validating yourself internally. And I think especially for artists, it is really hard to be able to do that. And I'm not great at doing that. That's something I've struggled with for a really long time and am still really struggling with. And I think that it's going to be important with this project, with these cards, for me to really step into that ability and be able to learn how to do that as best as I can. Because getting through 44 cards and being happy with them to the point where I'd be fine selling these cards and showing them off to people at art fairs and just showing them off to friends, like, I'm really going to need to embrace that. Or honestly, even embrace the mistakes as part of the process. So I think that's going to be really valuable for me going forward, is figuring out how to do that. How to validate myself in this process and how to look at the things that I'm doing that I enjoy, look at the things that I'm doing that I don't enjoy, and being able to honor both of those things going forward, which I know is going to be really hard. But I want to do this project. I really do. I don't want to give up on this project. And I think it's going to be really important for me to stick to it. Especially because, one other thing is, like, I've, told people and talked up a storm about it. And, there's a point where I also don't want to let people down too, which I think can also say something about the whole process. But yeah, I'm excited. I think this is going to be really fun. So these are the next two cards in this project. I'm at 4 and 5. I started with 1 for a previous video. I did the last 2 in the last video. And then these are 4 and 5 in the process. I'm getting to this point where I'm starting to create more and more. And hopefully we'll be able to show a lot of this project here online. But I don't want to overload you with all of these projects all at once, just like, we're only showing you Oracle card projects. So if you're interested in seeing some other ideas, some other concepts, maybe me talking about certain ideas, feel free to let me know in the comments, and I will check them out and certainly go through those ideas and maybe new concepts or new paintings. If you'd like to see some maybe bigger studio works, I can totally try to work on those a little bit more. But otherwise, I might try to just hunker down and really get this project moving. Or at least, if I think about like how many cards I can make in a week, like I could finish this, hopefully by the end of this year, if I really, focus in on this project and try to get it done in a timely manner, I can probably get this project done within the year. But that also would kind of push other bigger projects aside, other big studio works, which I know I need to do for galleries that are coming up in the summer. I need to work on getting some bigger gallery studio works done for those, so I'll need to work on those projects pretty soon. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, I think I want to stick with it. I'll hold on to these cards. I'm still not going to determine yet whether they're going to be in the final product, but I at least want to hold on to them for now. And then later on, once I have a bigger stockpile, I can really start to go through the ones that I really am just feeling off about and start to either remake them or make new cards entirely, and then start to see like, okay, what do I really want? What do I really want these cards to look like? And then go from there. So I think that's going to be really important in this process. Otherwise, that's all I have for today. I just wanted to show you a quick time lapse of the card making process while I talk to you about the current struggles, the current things that are going on today with these artworks, with what's going on with the channel, where my trajectory is at this point. And I know that for now it's going to be a good amount of these card projects, because I think these are on the simpler side to make and produce and to be able to create videos for you on a more frequent basis. But I know I definitely have some bigger projects on the books. Even with this Oracle card project, there's even a side of this project that I haven't revealed yet that I'd love to show you, but I want to wait till I have a little bit more of the cards ready to go before I actually go through and kind of show you that side of the project. But it'll be really fun, it'll be really interesting, and I hope that you'll enjoy it. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.